are we about to watch like some really bad stuff on the screen and like on the stage, and like, are they gonna do like all the bad stuff that they did in the book? Are they gonna do it on stage? What's up, guys? Welcome back to Down Once More podcast with Matt and Rayleigh. We are recording our first episode for December, the month of December, and we're going to talk about something super fun today, which we will get into in a moment. But first, Matt, how are you?
I am just peachy. Do you have a hair tie around your arm, or do you have a new tattoo, or what you rocking? I noticed
this is my
it,
barbed wire
and I
tattoo.
was distracted. Just like Pamela Anderson.
I'm just marking the territory so my tattoo artist will know exactly where I want my barbed wire tattoo to put. I'm going in tomorrow to get the tat. This is a fun hair tie. It's not even a regular hair tie, but this is a special hair tie because, ladies, if you don't know about this, you need to know about this. This hair tie is specifically designed to not put a crease in your hair. So when you put your hair up using this, it holds your hair up all day long. Then you can take it down and you don't have that weird, like funky, like weird indent in your hair from having your hair up all day. And that is why I have it. But then after I stretch it out from using it on my hair, it gets all big. So then I have to push it up in my arm or it'll fall off my arm. So then it looks like I got a badass barbed wire tattoo.
I like it.
Yeah.
I am very familiar with the Spouler hair ties. I have to put my hair up occasionally. I don't like
so proud of you.
Creases in it. That bump is just
it really does put a damper in the evening look. If you want to just go straight from like day to evening, you have to get a hair, like a straightener and stuff, and even then it just doesn't get it all out. So
yeah,
this invention is
for sure
really something for the modern powerful woman.
I support it.
Should write taglines for them.
Viva woman power. But
yes.
How are you?
Absolutely.
Really?
Fantastic. Just living life. Just really super duper busy. I just came back from a massive conference, my job that I've been working on for months and months and months, and had a massive role for the first time ever. They gave me a lot of responsibilities for this conference, and it was a lot of pressure on me. And I was...
You're still employed?
As far as I know, we went on vacation right after the conference. So when talk to me after tomorrow or after this week, let's say, and we'll let you know. But
I'm sure it was great.
I got a lot of really great feedback, so I came home feeling pretty good. Unless they were just blowing smoke up my ass and telling me nice things, that I'd have a nice Thanksgiving, so they wouldn't ruin my time with my family because I did like shit and they're planning on firing me this week. I don't know. So we'll see. But in my opinion, it went off without a hitch, and
perfect.
It was a lot of hard work that paid off, I think. We'll see.
Sweet. Nice. Yeah. It's exciting. Always good for that. Yeah. I'm sure they weren't just blowing smoke up your ass. That's what they did
with the turkey on Thanksgiving. I don't smoke my turkey. Do you smoke your turkey? Do you eat turkey on Thanksgiving?
Sometimes. I'm not at the stage yet where I'm cooking the Thanksgiving dinner. Went to wife's aunt and uncle. They were a ham family. There was no stuffing either. I'm more of a turkey person. However, if the turkey's done well, because turkey gets dry really easily, and then that's where gravy comes in to save the day, and you just douse it with it, and that's okay. Gravy makes everything better. When it comes to stuffing too, I love stuffing, but I actually prefer like just the boxed stuffing. Homemade stuffing is just too much. Just for being a little extra with it. Just give me that stovetop stuffing, and I'm a fan.
It's actually really good though from the box. Like
yeah.
No hate, no shame on that. That's
I've been known to eat an entire box of stovetop stuffing myself for my dinner, but that's why I look the way I do. It's Miller Lite and stovetop stuffing.
But that shit's so good, man. Do you eat it? But do you eat it outside of Thanksgiving time, or you only eat it at Thanksgiving?
I don't know, outside of Thanksgiving time if I think of it and remember it.
You're frozen.
Well, you're frozen as well. So,
Shit.
But I can hear you, so that's the important part. I hear you, and I see you, and you're
now
moving.
I can hear you.
Okay.
You were frozen for like a good 30 seconds there.
You were frozen, but I could still hear you.
Weird. Well, that'll be fun for you to edit later.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be a true recording session if there was no technical difficulties. That's the name of the game with us. It really is.
Say hello to my in-house ghosts who love to just fuck with me whenever, like especially when it's important and I'm doing stuff that counts for something. They just love to come in and swoop in and remind me that they're here and they can really mess with me anytime they want. I've had them at the last 4 places I've lived. And in this place particularly, they like to mess with electricity things and like the Wi-Fi and like the lights and things. So, hello, meet our friends wherever you are. And please, please, please stop messing with me so I can have this nice recording.
Yeah, you should stop pissing off vengeful spirits. You should try that.
Just gotta be better to the spirit world, I guess.
You really should. It's good to consider and think about. But
anywho, moving right along. Today we are going to talk about, in case you haven't heard, which I'm sure you have because it's been literally everywhere I look, the very recent as of a week ago, release of Wicked. Dun, dun, dun. Insert Matt's random theme song.
It was the beginning of music. No One Mourns the Wicked.
What?
Real Wicked heads get it.
Was it?
Part of the overture? Yeah.
I have been looking forward to this since I found out that it was going to be released, and I was so mad I couldn't go see it the weekend that it was released because I was at that conference for my work, and it wasn't something that I could just like ditch and go see. But I am the kind of fan that probably would have dressed up or something. I don't know, would have gotten some like green war paint or something and showed up in the midnight showing, maybe just wearing all black and like some green fingernails or something. I don't know. In fact, I looked for my witch's hat I was going to wear tonight as we were recording, and I wore it like 2 years ago for Halloween, and I cannot find it anywhere. And I'm so sad because I was going to wear my black witch's hat. But anywho, I'm excited because it's brand new and it came out, and we're going to talk about it.
We're going to talk about it. I'm wearing green, and this is pink and white, and I have the pink fuck off sign and the green light going on. I'm fully wickeded out.
I'm impressed. You never themize yourself. You never theme out when we're talking about certain things. I'm impressed. Wicked must be pretty special. You were feeling it tonight.
You know what? This was something that was easy and that I had, and that was just that was what it came down to.
Literally the first thing you grabbed in your closet, and you're like, yeah, that works.
Pretty much. Nice. I just don't have many theme outfits for what we discuss. And it's colors, so that's easy enough because I have to have my pink shirt to wear to work on Wednesdays because on Wednesdays we wear pink. So
on Wednesdays we wear pink, obviously.
Obviously. But yeah, so we're talking about Wicked Part 1. And so I figured my thought was we could kind of talk about the history of Wicked the musical as a whole, and then our experiences with Wicked. Then we'll get into talking about the movie itself. There will be spoilers for the movie, but not spoilers for what will be coming in part 2 from Act 2 of the musical. We will discuss that at the end. We'll give you a disclaimer. If you're familiar with the musical, you're going to know what happens anyway. But if you've only seen the movie, then I'd recommend skipping that part so that you can go into part 2 blind next year. Because why not? I think it'll be
definitely
more fun
that way. That.
But some brief history on the show. So Wicked as a whole comes from the original, like Frank L. Baum in 1900 wrote The Wizard of Oz about Dorothy, all that fun shit. In 1939, it was turned into a classic movie with Judy Garland, one of the first in Technicolor with the bright color, the transition of going from when it's black and white to color. very famous shot in cinematography. But that came out in 1939. In 1995, Gregory Maguire wrote the novel Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West, which was kind of looking almost like, his thought was wanted to be like philosophically, like, what makes a person wicked? Is it their circumstances, how they're raised, the things around them? The novel, very dark, lots of sex, politics, religion, like these core themes of the novel, don't make their way to the musical and the movie. Like there's a little bit of like Glinda's opening line, like, are people born wicked? Well, not opening line, but one of the opening lines of the song. And so they still explore those themes a little bit, but they do lean a lot heavier on the friendship of Elphaba and Glinda, or as she becomes to be known, Glinda, in the musical and in the resulting movie. But basically, Stephen Schwartz, who wrote the music for this, composed the music for this, he found the book in 1995, was very intrigued by it, found out Gregory Maguire, the author, had sold the rights for it to be turned into a live-action film to Universal. And in 1998, Stephen Schwartz convinced Gregory Maguire to release the rights for a stage adaptation, and Stephen Schwartz made in his words, an impassioned plea to Mark Platt, a Universal producer, to help him realize his vision and turn it into a stage musical. Mark Platt, father of Ben Platt, of Dear Evan Hansen fame. Fun fact. So they worked on developing it over the years. Stephen Schwartz collaborated with writer Winnie Holtzman to outline the story, write the book for the musical. Winnie Holtzman also helped write the screenplay for the movie. And then they really wanted to change and kind of focus more, like I said, on that friendship between Elphaba and Glinda in the musical, not so much the politics and religion and political turmoil in the Land of Oz. Because there's a lot of stuff with the book that's dark. Like, I've seen some things like social media of people who love the movie going out and they're like, I'm so excited to read the book. And then they're like, oh my God, on the first page, it's like, they're all saying that they think Elphaba's a hermaphrodite. And then there's like, tiger person sex orgy party, like everything's going on in this novel, which I don't think will be in part 2 of the movie, but I guess we'll have to wait till next year to see. But
okay, safe assumption.
Yes. They started workshops of the musical, and Kristen Chenoweth was on early to play Glinda. That's kind of who Stephen Schwartz had in mind when he was writing the part. During workshops, Stephanie J. Block played Elphaba, and then Idina Menzel came in 2002. And that's kind of who we know to kind of originate that role of Elphaba. They had kind of out of state, off Broadway. They opened in San Francisco in 2003 to do kind of workshops to try out the play in May and June. Then they did some major rewrites of the show, including Dancing Through Life. It wasn't in the original version of the musical. There was a different song called Which Way is the Party, which was replaced with Dancing Through Life before it began previews on Broadway in October 2003, and it's still running on Broadway. It's been running on Broadway ever since. There have been a number of national tours, not really any major rewrites since 2003. It's been pretty whole. And then now we have this movie, which they originally announced that they were working on it in like 2012. Like, that's when they announced they were going to start doing a movie. And then it was in development hell, multiple delays, and then COVID. And then even when they finally announced John M. Chu was going to direct, they started casting people, started filming in December of 2022, and then the writer's strike happened. So then it got put on hold for a while with that. And then now we finally have this movie. It's out. It's here. It's part 1. Again, they didn't really market that much, but it is part 1. And so that's where we are. It opened last week. It's been just crushing it in the box office, even this second weekend of it being open, with kind of going against Moana 2 opening as well, with a lot of kind of that same demographic. Moana 2 is a little more kid focused than Wicked, but still musicals for the most part family friendly. Wicked's only PG, which I'll be interested if part 2 will stay PG. We'll talk about that later, but it is here and we are going to talk about it, and that is your overview of this. But the story, you said, is kind of a different take on the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz. Kind of almost painting her as like the anti-hero, focusing on her origin story and her motivations. So that's what this story tells. It has their friendship with the Wicked Witch of the West, Elphaba, and the Good Witch. I forget what exactly she's called. Glinda the Good. Or I forget. I feel like she's called something else in Wizard of Oz.
Good Witch of the North.
Good Witch of the North. And so kind of their friendship at university and, well, friendship, rivalry turned to friendship and growth and all these other characters. And that's what this tells the story of. So that's that.
Well done.
Rayleigh.
Very nice.
Thank you. What has been your experience with Wicked? When were you first introduced to it? Have you seen it live, the musical?
First, I have to say, the first time I ever heard of it was I randomly found the book I think it was at maybe a Barnes & Noble or something. My family takes a vacation every year to the same place. And so I always went and got a new book for our family vacation because I'm such a huge book nerd. And my goal was always we're going to be there for a week, Saturday to Saturday. And I try to finish a book during that time. And it's at the beach, right? So you have a lot of downtime to read. Anyway, one time, I think I was 10, maybe 11. And I saw this book and I grabbed it and I was like, oh, this is the story of the Wicked Witch? What? Oh, my mind was blown. I was like, it's the Wizard of Oz, but it's not. And I assumed in my little 12-year-old mind or whatever it was that it was just going to be the story of the Wizard of Oz story, but from the witch's perspective, right? I had no idea what I was getting into. And let me tell you, that book stayed with me. It stayed with me. Not just because obviously it's such a flipping good story and because it was so different from what I expected, but also because my 10-year-old sheltered child mind growing up in a very Christian, very just anti anything out there in the world that's even remotely negative environment. I did not tell my parents what I was reading about because they also, like me, assumed, oh, that's cute. It's the Wizard of Oz, but from the Wicked Witch's perspective. So
and the book cover looked like a children's book. The cover looked like a children's book. And this author, before he wrote this, had primarily only been writing children's books. It was just a wild departure.
Why would you think it was going to be what it was? So anyway, I remember specifically reading certain scenes and really thinking I'm going to hell for reading this. There's explicit sex scenes in it, explicit, prostitution, rape, orgies with bestiality. It's full on, no child should be reading this.
Yep.
But I read it and I was real hush-hush about what I was reading. And I remember my mom asked me at the end of the week, she's like, did you finish your book? Because you do every year. And I was like, She was like, what? Did you like it? Was it nice? And I was like, I'm going to hell. On the inside, I'm shattered. But it was so good that I couldn't stop reading it. It's written well. It's an engrossing story. It's just such a good idea to take this whole world and just break it apart and essentially change your whole attitude towards something you've known your whole life as good versus evil. And that's why I love these villain stories, because there's a lot now. They've done several of them, meaning they the world has taken this approach several times. And I love it every time because I'm it's so intriguing to see the evil side and how they got there. And I particularly loved Elphaba because she's really just it's sad. The environment, her circumstances made her what she was. It's against what she wants. She never would have become that if it hadn't been for other people making her that. So it's, I love it. So it makes me watch Wizard of Oz differently now, even though it's still, she's evil and these are good. I still look at her damn, bitch, you just never had a chance, did you? She's up there like, like writing in the sky, like, bring me Dorothy or whatever. And I'm like, girl, I feel you up there. Like, I'm so sorry. They did you wrong, girl. They did you wrong, okay? Feeling it for her. But like, her and Fierro, I always say that wrong. Fierro, right? Like their whole story, we'll get into that because I want to like talk about the details of that. But like, it's totally different in the book than it is in the musical and in the movie. But so I started with the book as a 11-year-old with way over my head. And then it wasn't until, I don't know, probably I was like 25 maybe when I saw the show. Probably 10 or shmishmy years ago. I'm not going to tell you how old I am. 10 shmishmy years ago that I saw it, and it was an off-Broadway version. So I've actually never seen the Broadway version, but it was, the same show is just like done with a little bit lower budget and not as many amazing stars. And I saw it, I think, in New Orleans. I think it was New Orleans, may have been Key West. But anyway, but I remember going to the show and having that same feeling like come back up when I was like, that 12-year-old girl inside of me was like, hey, are we about to watch like some really bad stuff on the screen and like, on the stage, and I'm like, are they going to do like all the bad stuff that they did in the book? Are they going to do it on stage? And of course it was not. The show is not that. They talk about it, some of those things going on in the background, but like not at all the details that this book goes into. So I remember breathing like a sigh of relief, like, oh, this is just a lighthearted show. Okay, good. I wasn't prepared to go through that and see it visually after having lived through it up here when I was 12. So then, for that reason, I just loved it. It was like a secret that I kept my whole life, how much I loved this book. And I remember I thought it was just this unknown thing. When I found out it was a musical, I was shocked, as I thought this book just existed in the depths of the abyss and that nobody knew about it but me. And I had found it and like discovered this evil like side of the Wizard of Oz that like nobody knew but me. And so I hadn't met anybody who knew about it. And then when I found out it was a musical, everybody was like, oh, it's Wicked, it's Wicked, it's Wicked. I'm like, wait, you guys know about Wicked? Like, that's a thing that people know about? People didn't know about the book. They just knew about the show.
Yep.
I don't think I've ever met anybody else who's read the full book, but I'm a book nerd. So that's that. And then when they announced it was coming out as a movie, I was like, yeah, of course. I have to go see it. It's going to be good. And I knew the actors that they chose, like the singing was going to be off the charts for sure. But I have some opinions about that. But anyway, now you tell me your story about your experience with Wicked.
So my experience with Wicked was that I first heard Defying Gravity. So I don't remember where I heard it, how I heard it, but I heard Defying Gravity. I knew it was from this show. Fell in love with that song instantly.
How can you not?
Yeah, it's fantastic. And Dina Menzel's performance, aces. But I listened to the cast recording after that, and then I was intrigued. And of course, I wanted to know the story between it. So I've read on the Wikipedia, the summary at the time.
Wikipedia.
And so then I had seen that it was based on a novel. So then I went and I think I did the audiobook of the novel. That's how I did it. And I am like, this is not what I was expecting. This is very different than the vibes that the musical gives me. Totally. I think there were quite a few changes. And there were. But I really enjoyed the novel for what it is. Like, it is very dark. It is, like I said, it is very like political, and like the religion aspect is a big part of it. Like all the different religions with I forget with what else. Elphaba's father is like a priest, and I forget what his religion is, but the other one is like the pleasure religion. And then there's the TikTokers. I thought it was funny that they were called the TikTokers, the religion.
I know.
But like in that, the time dragon clock, it's referenced in the musical, and in the staging, like in the stage, there's a big dragon, like the clock is on the set of, like, I saw it in the national tour, but it was on the Broadway too. The clock in the novel, very different. Like, the clock just exists and they just reference it as like something that keeps time, basically. And this, they're like,
Right.
well, she died at this time on the time dragon clock.
Right.
The time dragon clock is tied to some fuck shit in the novels.
Definitely.
But I'd wanted to see it because there's no recorded filmed version. You can find the slime tutorials on YouTube, that you could see some of those filmed, the bootleg versions. But of course it's low quality, things like that. And so it was on a national tour a few years ago, and it was actually the 7th episode of the podcast was me talking about reviewing the national tour that I saw, and that was when the movie was announced as well, the full that John M. Chu was directing, and it was going to be split into 2 parts a little over 2 years ago. So that episode's on the podcast feed if you want to go listen to that. And I saw the musical and I loved it, being able to see it on stage, just some fantastic performances. I've been impressed with pretty much every show that I've gone on the national tours that they put out there. You have actors who have been on Broadway, and just the voices are incredible, even if it's relative unknowns. I've really enjoyed it. So that was kind of where I first fell in love with it, and I was really excited for the movie coming out, just for a chance to be able to watch that and have it in your home to see more, because while I love musical soundtracks and I listen to them a lot, I feel like having the action and being able to watch it play out just adds a whole other level to it, obviously. And so I was really excited for it. We talked about it on here too. I was very nervous about Ariana Grande as Glinda. I thought she would do well, a fantastic singer, but the look was just distracting to me and all the previews. And I wasn't sure what to think about it. But I kind of transitioned into the movie because I don't really have any more about my history. It wasn't as vast as yours. Now we'll kind of talk about the movie and our thoughts on that and what worked for us and thoughts. But like, seeing this, Ariana Grande was one of the best parts of this movie to me. I thought she was a fantastic Glinda, and just sounded amazing, just acted her ass off. I did have it pointed out to me, they're like, man, she just, from the actual facial expressions, not much movement there. It seemed like, but I didn't notice it when I was in the movie. Like, that's like a minor nitpicking. I thought opening it with "No One Mourns the Wicked," she sounded so damn good. And the fact that they recorded almost all the vocals for these live while they did it, like, on set. John M. Chu, we haven't had a chance to talk about In the Heights on here yet, which we will, but like, he directed that Lin-Manuel Miranda musical, and then he did Crazy Rich Asians, and I really like him as a musical director. I thought that his direction in this movie as a whole, was fantastic. One thing I've seen people just blasting, like, the color grading online, and I think people just need to just enjoy stuff. Why can't you just like stuff? Why you just have
what
to
are they saying
complain
about the color
everything?
grading?
That it looks very muted. I don't know. And like certain things, people,
as opposed to what though? Like, I think that's a relative thing.
I agree.
I get that, like, maybe you're thinking, like, in terms of the Wizard of Oz world is very bright. It's very, like, almost like primary colors, you know, harsh, almost like really red, really yellow, really green, like super duper, like, saturated colors. And I get that. Like, maybe you're used to that. Maybe you're thinking this world should look like that. But also, that was 1939, right? And they were like, look, we can do shit in color now. Like, it was like, we've got to really punch it, guys. Because we're going from black and white to color, and it needs to be like, holy shit.
Yeah. We show that shit off.
Know? Yeah. But in a way, it's almost like, to me, that would have been distracting. If you put it too harsh a color.
I agree.
Contrast.
I thought it
would
looked
be distracting.
Beautiful. Like, I thought it looked great. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel like y'all are just looking for something to nitpick now.
And of course, it's
like
the internet. That's what they do.
I'm not seeing this movie for the color grading. I'm seeing it for the vocals and everything that takes place.
And the acting, yeah.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure how I was going to think about, like, Ariana. Sorry, go ahead. Finish.
No, you go. I was going to kick it back over to you anyways, so.
Okay. Well, I wasn't sure if I was going to like Ariana Grande either. And the facial expression thing, I think if I did notice it, which I might have noticed it in passing, I didn't know to like look for that specifically, but I might have noticed it. But in a sense, I think that's intentional. Like she's supposed to look almost like doll-like. She's supposed to look very perfect, right? And her whole demeanor is, straight posture and very like super clean face, very big eyes. She has to almost look like she's perfect and she's perky and she the exaggerated hair flip got me every time. I thought, she's Ariana Grande. I was like, she's a big name, so maybe they're just trying to put a big name in here to make it so that people go because they're Ariana Grande fans. And that would have been like an acceptable or an understandable move to make, right? Not as many people know about Wicked the musical as they do as many people know about Ariana Grande, right? So if you just happen to not be a musical fan, but you happen to be an Ariana Grande fan, you might go see it just because she's in it, right? And so I would understand that move. And so that's kind of why I was going into it with like, are you just using her because she's got a badass voice, but like, is she going to on the acting? I kind of expected her to. And she was irritatingly good, like so good. Almost so much that I kind of forgot it was Ariana Grande, which is the whole point of acting. If you're a good actor, I should forget that you're an actor. And her, as you said, her vocals, especially when she hits those notes that just like not anybody else can hit. She almost has an operatic voice in this, which surprised me. She obviously has amazing pipes, so she's got such good songs out. But I know her as a pop singer, and some of the stuff that she sings in this is almost operatic. And I was like, holy shit, like this girl has the ability to sing a soprano opera if she wanted. She's got the skill, she's got the sound. And then she's just like so freaking cute that I kind of wanted to punch her a little bit because she was so cute and so good at it. So I was like, is there anything that this girl cannot do? Please have a flaw for the rest of us, please, because it's too good. And I actually thought she outshined, what's her name? The Elphaba's
Cynthia
I forgot
Erivo.
her name. Erivo, thank you. I thought she outshined her, which was sad to me because when I watched the trailer for, when she's singing Defying Gravity, you get a little clip of Defying Gravity in the trailer, which of course that's my favorite song as well. And it's really the only song at least from part one, that I would want to just listen to in my car. The rest of the music from Wicked, I don't think the music is that amazing. And that's sad to say. Like, I don't think the songs are that impactful as some of the other musicals that I enjoy listening to. So I was waiting for Defying Gravity because I knew it was going to be freaking good. And it was amazing because it is. But I felt like Ariana Grande kind of stole the show. So some of the times when Elphaba is singing, she is just kind of like upstaged a bit by Glinda, and that was disappointing to me because I wanted Elphaba to have this like power move. I wanted her to be this like, bam, I'm here and I'm badass and I'm green and I don't give a fuck what you say. She has that song and it's such a good song that the end of part one is when she sings that song. It's almost like that was when she finally like came out and did her thing, which I guess is intentional because that's the story, right? She's very, very meek and mild and demure in the beginning, I guess. A muted human because she's had to be. and then she, or whatever she is, maybe she's not human, but towards the end is when she gets her like strength and confidence, right? Yeah. It was like I was waiting for that Elphaba to come through earlier, and she didn't until then. So all that to say, Ariana Grande blew me away, and I'm mad at her for it. Ariana, if you ever hear this, love you, girl. No hate, but like, fuck you, okay? Because fuck you. The rest of us need a little bit of space to breathe. The only other thing I wanted to say, though, like in terms of the acting and singing, is I'm so bad with the names. I forgot this guy's name. He plays Fiyero. He's also
Jonathan
in
Bailey.
he's also in Bridgerton.
Bridgerton. Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Why does it sound weird when I say it? Bridgerton.
No,
yeah, right. He's the oldest brother in Bridgerton. Obviously an amazing voice, can sing really well. Just beautiful. Just a beautiful,
so good,
flippin' man. And it's just whatever. That's enough of that. He's amazing, and we knew he was going to be amazing. We knew Cynthia Erivo was going to be amazing. We knew Ariana Grande was going to be amazing. What surprised me were the little like side characters, her friends for one, the two like sassy friends, Galinda's little like girl friends, and one of them is the SNL guy. I forget his name.
Bowen Yang,
an Asian guy. Yeah, they were comic relief. You know, the two of them. I don't think they're in the musical, are they?
No, nope.
I don't think we have those characters in the musical.
No, I think they pulled the names of those characters from the book.
They're in the book, but they're not like that.
They're not in the musical.
Pronounced in the book.
Right.
You know, they're friends and they're there. They're university students, but in this musical, I feel like we got some comic relief.
Yeah.
With the two of them for just to give Galinda a little extra, like she's got her posse with her, you know. She upped her popularity and upped her like coolness a little bit more because she has two friends that just like follow her around. They're like, oh my god,
her posse.
It's great. Yes,
Mean Girl Squad.
It was, but I will say that they moved me in the emotional parts, and in a movie like this that's meant for kids and families, that's not always the case. They can't always hit on those like moments where you feel feels. And the scene in the, I think it's called an Ozdust.
The Ozdust ballroom.
Ozdust, right? Ballroom. The scene when, you know, Galinda finally comes to realize that Elphaba is worth being her friend. Like she should be stop being such a bitch to her and like be nice. And she saves her on the dance floor and like moves in, and she feels bad about doing the whole hat thing and tricking her into wearing this ugly hat that everybody's laughing at her for. It's like a moment where she realizes, okay, I really should help this girl out and stop pretending to be nice and actually be a good friend to her. Even though she only did it in response to Elphaba doing something really nice to her. That moment, and of course the moment when they part ways during just as she starts singing Defying Gravity, they make the choice to go their separate ways. It's heartbreaking. In the book, you have so much more detail about everything Elphaba's gone through up to that point and what Galinda's and Elphaba's friendship was like. In the movie, because you have to move so fast, you don't get as much chance to really develop the hardships before their friendship and the beauty of their friendship and how pure it is and just how like so good to each other they are and so relieved that they have each other. It's really a beautiful friendship. It's written beautifully. So when they part ways and Elphaba has to do her thing and Galinda's like, sorry, homie, you got to do what you got to do. I'm not going with you. That's like, it got me. I was crying. I was crying full tears in the theater.
I think that I had said before the movie came out that I was both excited but also a bit hesitant of them splitting into two parts. Because I'm like, well, the actual stage musical is like 2.5 hours long, and part one of the movie is 2.5 hours long. But I'm like, I get it. It gives you some time to more kind of do some more character development and let some scenes breathe a little bit more. And I think one of the times we got that was in Dancing Through Life at the end when they're at the Ozdust Ballroom and Elphaba comes in. That you call it out, that scene where Glinda finally kind of realizes she's been a bit of a dick and that Elphaba is actually like a good person, doesn't deserve what she's putting her through. And that scene of them dancing together and everything there doesn't happen in the musical like that, very much condensed. But it was very like in the movie, it was very touching, and how it was shot was just beautiful. And the emotion on both of them. I'm going to get into the press tour a little bit later when we talk about some other stuff. But yeah, I just thought, I think it was a great decision to split this into 2 parts. I thought this, like, it didn't feel like it was 2.5 hours long to me. And I really appreciated just kind of the reverence they had for the musical. I mean, it helps that Stephen Schwartz was involved throughout it, and Winnie Holzman, who wrote the book for the musical, was one of the screenwriters for this too, and involved. But like, they kept all of the songs; they didn't cut anything.
I know,
and they kept the arrangements.
And they didn't add anything either, at least not in this first part. There was no new songs.
There's 2 songs added to part 2. They announced there's 2
I thought they were
original
add
songs
something
in
to part 2.
But yeah, there was nothing in this part 1. Like, it was pretty close. Like, they expanded some story things throughout it. So like in One Short Day, when they go to Oz to meet the wizard, and then they watch the play telling the wizard's origin story and everything like this, and you get the cameos of Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth.
I freaked out when I saw
as the wise ones, and it was great. It was so cool to see them in there. And their role, they were kind of one-upping each other. Idina Menzel hits her notes, her run at the end of Defying Gravity. She sings that on there. So you have those thrown in, and then they're interacting with the new Elphaba and Glinda, Ariana and Cynthia on set there, and that was really cool to see. I really like how they expanded that on the song. And in that song too, you also had Stephen Schwartz is the one who says the wizard will see you now at the end of it. That was his little cameo. And then
I didn't realize that was him.
The book writer, also has a cameo in there. And there were also a number of people who've played Elphaba and Glinda and Fiyero over the years that had small little cameos in this as well. But yeah, I thought I really enjoyed it. Like, I think this is one of the best movie musicals that I have seen. Like, period. Like, adaptations of a stage show. This is one of the best adaptations of a stage show. Like, they kept it faithful to it. They didn't change anything. Like, even the arrangements of the songs. Like, that was one of my biggest things that pissed me off about the Mean Girls musical when I talked about that. And you and I are going to have to do a more in-depth one when you watch and get your thoughts. Was that they just popified everything. And they just took out the musical heart of that musical when they turned it into the movie. And there was one thing, there was quotes from interviews going around where Stephen Schwartz has said he kind of wanted to give a hip-hop vibe to Popular, and Ariana Grande pushed back about it. She's like, no, I don't want you to do this. I don't want it to seem like it's Ariana Grande performing as Glinda. She wanted it to seem like Glinda. She wanted to keep it as original, as faithful. Because you can see that
for her.
It seems like she loved this musical, loved the character. And you could tell that in how like faithful
that would have
the
been like, if she had done that, then that would have done the opposite of what I just said, which was I almost forgot it was Ariana Grande performing it. If they had turned it into an Ariana Grande song for Wicked, like make it sound like her, I would have been like, oh, there it is. Like, there she is, doing her thing. And that's why they brought her on. Like, it would have annoyed me because it would have been like, the original music's not good enough. Like, we got to turn it into her version. Like, that would have made me feel annoyed. So I'm really glad to hear that she pushed back on that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, Stephen Schwartz has said something in an interview, too, that the ending of Popular in the movie, he said that's something that he would maybe work into the Broadway version and adapt, because there's some minor tweaks at the end of that. And he said we want to make those changes. hit the mic. Ariana Grande was like hesitant, and he's like, no, these are changes that, like, if I would have thought about it when I was originally composing it, I would have done it then. So like, I'm not just doing it for this. These are changes that I actually want to make. And she's like, oh, okay.
I thought it added to it too. Like the end of that song is really, really cute. Her little outro, her whole little like solo moment at the end of that was really cute, and it was very likable, and like, you know, it didn't take away. I thought they did a good job too of bringing. They incorporated some of the book that's not in the musical by giving you a flashback scene of Elphaba's childhood. Like, obviously in the musical, you don't really get any of that. You like kind of fast forward to like her getting to university basically. And there's in the book, like probably half the book is her just growing up as a green kid and just living in this world that just fucking hates
her. Parents having all these thruples.
Her parents being just huge assholes all the time. And her whole history, like you said, when she was born like, is she a hermaphrodite? Like they talk about all the horrible things that she's had to go through.
She bites off someone's finger as soon as she's born. She has sharp teeth. And so they're worried about that.
Tears it up. And they just like give her hell for her entire life. And actually she goes to university much later in life. She's not actually like 20 years old like she seems in the movie and the musical. In the book, she's actually like, I don't know, they don't think they give you an age, but she's way beyond that age. And she's like kind of like, this is her last chance of doing anything. Anyway, but you get so much of her childhood. Kind of what I was hitting on earlier is you have all that history built up that by the time she gets to university, and especially by the time she makes a friend with Glenda, you're so relieved for her to have somebody be kind to her, because she's just been through hell, and it's so much hell. And it also makes her romance with Fiyero much sweeter as well, because she's loved and she's like shown like some true affection, even though it's very graphic scenes. But anyway, she doesn't get any of that in the musical. You don't get any of the like childhood stuff really, because there's no time. But they did it interestingly in the movie. They gave us a flashback. And so we saw her as a little girl. We saw her being born. We saw them going like, WTF, she's green. And like her dad immediately rejecting her. And then you get a scene with her and little Nessa Rose, her sister, who you see that she's just taking care of Nessa like her entire life. And it was a short scene. She's being bullied by kids. She freaks out and uses magic to like throw rocks at them. She makes Nessa Rose cry because she's scared of her sister. And she's taking care of her sister, and she's being yelled at by her father. It's a lot in one scene to show just to show you that like when she gets to university, that's what her life has been like the entire time, and much worse. But yeah, and they changed her university entrance a little bit as well. I can't remember in the musical if this is the case, but in the book, I know for sure she is already enrolled as a student when she gets to university. She's not showing up as like a character. It is okay, yeah.
From what I remember, I could be wrong.
They show up as
my
sisters that are both
enrolled.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, because I didn't remember it being different from the book. But the sisters are enrolled together, and the idea is that they're going to room together. They're going to be roommates, and they're going to go to school together. And she's obviously going to be continuing to take care of Nessa Rose, but like Nessa's really trying to be independent here. But they changed that. And so something interesting about that change is she's already, if you read the book or you watch the musical, she's already a student. So when Madame Marble comes in, swoops in and like takes her under her wing, she's like less indebted to her. So in this version of the movie, she's not a student. She's come to just like make sure Nessa's good, and then she's going to peace out and go back to her abusive father and shitty life. And like hate herself and crawl in a hole and die. But Madame Marble taking her like and making her a student instantly is like, it's like she's already indebted to her in some way. Like she's so grateful for like this opportunity, that she sees something in her that she's almost like, I'll do whatever this lady wants me to do because she saved me. So it's interesting that small difference could make a change in how you view her character toward this professor that eventually, betrays her and makes her, makes her realize that all along I never really had good intentions for you.
Right. So I want to talk a few Easter eggs in the movie, and then spend a little bit more time on the songs, and then we'll get into spoilers for part 2, act 2.
Okay.
So here's a few little fun Easter eggs that I don't know if
Getting
you
my notes
noticed.
out.
In No One Mourns the Wicked, and the opening notes of it were kind of the overture going into the song. When the Munchkin kids are running through the field, there are the notes of Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead from the original Wizard of Oz. And in Popular, Glinda hands Elphaba red shoes and taps them together 3 times when she hands them to her, which is like the ruby slippers, which, fun fact, because I've seen some people, they're like, well, why are the slippers silver and diamond? Well, that's how they were in the original novel. But when they made the 1939 movie, then they wanted to change them to red so that they popped more, show off that color a little bit more. But yeah, the original shoes are silver. And that's what they look like.
Mm-hmm.
But an interesting thing, like John M. Chu called out specifically too, that in the costume design, like the heels on those shoes kind of mimic cyclones on the heels and the slippers that they're twirled. Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize. I didn't notice that. Did that show in them? I don't know if it did. It show. They show
her dad like holds out the slippers to give to Nessa, and you see them specifically in their kind of cyclone design.
Oh, that's cool.
The opening of the movie where it shows like the hat and kind of like the puddle, and then the monkey flies out the window, like that's one of the original musical stagings. There's a giant Wicked Witch hat that they're dancing at the beginning of No One Mourns the Wicked, and so it's kind of a nod to that as well. And also the reflection of the hat in the water also looks like a cyclone.
Wait, so you're saying that like on stage they put the giant hat that's part of the set?
Like
is that what you're saying?
Hat. Mm-hmm. Like there are
I forgot
dancers
that, or I didn't see.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I didn't remember that.
And it might be one that fell off over time, but at one version of the production that was it. So I don't know if that's an official Easter egg or not. It was an interesting thing.
It's cool.
Madame Morrible tells Elphaba that she mustn't get wet when it starts raining, and holds the umbrella over her to kind of set up some stuff there. I had forgotten that the wizard was from Nebraska, from Omaha, Nebraska originally in the novel. So that's when he's reading the Grimoire. He says Omaha, and that's what he says, and they're like, oh, he's reading the forbidden language.
Oh, he's reading it.
He's reading.
I didn't realize he was saying Omaha. Language. That's funny.
Mm-hmm. I thought that hilarious. Was interesting. There was the notice when you're in Shiz, and when Elphaba first has her magic, kind of her burst of it to protect Nessa, she knocks off the seal that's the picture of the wizard on the wall, and you see all these like animal leaders, so kind of showing how prominent the animals were before. But that was interesting.
How they covered that up now.
Mm-hmm. And then and there were some other ones, but the last one I had noted was that the Wicked Part 1 title card at the beginning is in the same font as the Wizard of Oz title card is in the 1939 movie. So I think those, and I think were
also the to be continued at the end, I think as well, right?
Agreed.
Same font.
Yep, I think
big, huge yellow letters across the screen.
Yes. So those were the Easter
eggs. I like
eggs.
That.
Were there any Easter eggs that you had noticed that I didn't call out?
Obviously the I think it was really more obvious when she put everybody to sleep accidentally. But when they first talked about poppies, when she was like, he was like, "Oh, poppies are my favorite." She's like, "Mine too." And then that later comes up when she's obviously like cast a spell on everybody and makes them fall asleep.
Yep.
Foreshadowing for her the curse she puts on Dorothy and the others.
Poppies. That's really good. Yeah.
Then there was
also one I remembered. The wizard when he's dancing to a sentimental man, he goes behind the curtain, which could be a nod to him saying, "Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain."
Behind the curtain.
And when he picks up the house on his little model and is moving it around, could be kind of nod to Twister a little bit. But I don't know how I felt about it being that Glinda chooses what color the road is going to be.
I was just about to say
that was a little bit on the nose for me, and I felt like a little bit odd.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. It was like it's a little too, oh my gosh, it's a yellow brick road. Like, and he kept saying, follow the road. And then it's just, yellow brick road. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what was the other one that I was thinking of. Obviously, in the opening scene, you see Dorothy and the others, like just for an instant, like walking away. And you get the feeling that, I know we're going to talk a little bit about the spoilers for part 2, but you get the feeling that Dorothy is going to make an appearance in part 2 in some way, shape, or form. There will be some, I think we should expect some overlap between the two stories, between musical Wicked and our beloved Wizard of Oz story. And I don't think there was anything else. Although I just have to say, I have to point out that moment when she flings her cape out and it goes in slow motion and it's like that. I was like, oh, like I felt the feels in that moment. That was really cool. Her whole that whole scene with her defying gravity and becoming herself was just like really a powerful scene.
Yeah. That's another kind of Easter egg. The scene with her in the sky and the cape is fucking massive. On the stage production, the end of Act 1 is she's raised and the cape is fucking massive. Like she's raised in the air and it's all black below her. So that was another little Easter egg that you dropped.
And in case anybody missed it, which I'm sure you didn't, she's holding onto the broomstick, and as she's singing the song and looking at them hovering in the air, she's got her hand out like this, and it's like that's the same pose that she does when she's like flying in the Wizard of Oz. She does that always. That's her, like, I don't know, angry pose or something. She does that when she's talking to me. I'll get you, my pretty.
Which reminds me of another Easter egg. When Madame Orville is working with Elphaba and trying to get her to basically levitate the coin, and there's a shadow of Elphaba's hand on the page, and it's like the witch's hand, and like very crooky like that. So let's talk about the music in general a little bit in this movie before we get into the part 2 spoilers. I'm gonna start at the back end and go forward. And Cameron just went away. Rayleigh's ghost decided to fuck with shit again, so we had technical difficulties. So we are back. And it's like, let's talk about the music.
And we're not talking shit about musical. You, Ghost. Just so you know, please.
Yeah,
please
no, not talking shit on the ghost.
Take any revenge out on me while I sleep. Thank you.
Yes. So the music in the movie, and I'm actually going to start backwards. I'm going to start at Defying Gravity, because we've talked about it a few times here, and I do think you're right. Cynthia Erivo's performance, so powerful, so fantastic. I'm torn on it though, because I do feel, because it's an extended version of the song, but it's segmented out so much because of different interactions and interjections into it,
right?
As well as like the little thing where Elphaba's going unlimited on and on a few times instead of going right into and nobody in all of Oz, no wizard that there is or was, that whole part. And to me, I do think that lessened the impact of that song a little bit. Because it didn't get to build, hit the crescendo and go.
I agree with that.
It kept going. And like it kept just kind of pulling you out of it. So that was my only note with that. But Cynthia Erivo was fantastic. Her interpretation of it I thought was so good. But that was my only kind of drawback on that song that kind of distracted me a bit.
It is like, it's like not an anthem. What's the word where you like, it's, I don't know, like not a power ballad. It's like one of those songs where you like, by the time it crescendos, you just are in your feels. Like it's like you really just want to belt it out. And you're right, there's little like interjections of dialogue, and then there's also scenes where she's flying or she's doing something else, and or their guards are running or they're grabbing Glinda. Like there's moments where it cuts. So you're right. Yes. I felt that missing too, because I was so ready for that like build up that I noticed that it was not there as well, and that was a little bit disappointing. It's still a fantastic song. It's just a fantastic voice, but you're right. It's missing that like feeling.
Yeah. jumping back to the beginning, I thought No One Mourns the Wicked was so good, nearly like perfect. Like I had no additional notes except it was such a great opening and introduction to this movie, and Ariana was so fun, and they had like the little like kind of comedic bits with her like trying to, when she had the bubble up, not being
She's like,
able to hear, and
if
then
there's
popping
no
it.
other questions, then I'm just gonna go. She's just so
Mm-hmm.
over it. The choreography in those scenes too were really good. I forget
The
why do I
choreography in this whole movie I felt like was fantastic.
yeah, but particularly the group choreography in that scene, in the scene when they're in the Emerald City with all of the
Yeah.
city and residents and like citizens of the city, walking,
Dancing Through Life was another highlight for me.
Dancing
The
Through Life
choreography was so good.
That was great. And I have to say, I watched it in a D-Box theater. I don't know if you've ever had the D-Box experience, but
No.
it's like you're in the seat and it like vibrates and moves with the movie.
Oh.
So you have like a four. What was your mind thinking about? Okay.
I'd never heard of a
what you were
D-Box.
thinking of.
I've heard of like a 4DX. I've never heard of a D-Box. That's like
That's what it's
SNL
called.
Lonely Island skit, right? With Justin Timberlake.
D-Box. Yes. Okay, anyway,
D-Box.
it's a 4D experience, right? And I thought this would be a good one, obviously, because there's like flying and there's dancing and there's like lots of music and stuff, and it really enhanced those scenes, especially scenes like in Dance Through Life. Because like all the the library, they're in the spinning things, and so your seat is like that, and you feel like you're actually spinning with the scene, with the screen.
Interesting.
So it's distracting in some movies. Like I don't like it in action movies because it's just like vibrating your butt the whole time, and it's like this is enough already. But in this one, it wasn't all the time. It was only with it did a lot of movement when you got a lot of movement in the movie, and then when there was like, for instance, when she does her hair flip, it would like move your seat with her. So I felt like that was a really cool, like interactive way of seeing this musical. So if you have a chance to see that, like D-Box or 4D or whatever it is called in your hometown, see it that way because it's cool. When she's flying, especially, holy crap, when she flies in the end, that was awesome. And the in the library, like I said, and then also in in the Emerald City when they're doing because they walk through, you've got like a POV kind of point of view, like walking through, and you're getting people walking in 2s and 3s, and they're doing like one little move, like a choreographed move, and then jumping out of a scene, and then the next 3 people are coming and doing their thing. It was really interactive, so I felt like it was cool. I felt like I was dancing with them kind of. But if you pay attention, those little moves are really unique. And that's why I love that this movie is a movie, because I really want to watch it again. There's so much. Seeing it one time in the theater was awesome, but there was so much that I felt like I didn't get to really see, because all those scenes where there's so many things happening, that in on stage, you at least have like the advantage of seeing everything at once, right? But the advantage of having it on screen from a camera is that you get really close up. But when you get close up, your eyes notice one thing and it's moving so fast that there's another thing. Oh, I missed that. And then, so I'm excited to go back and be able to see it again, because I feel like there were moments where either the dialogue, I mean, I'm old. I watch everything with subtitles, everything. So there are moments when I felt like in the dialogue, I was like, I think I missed something there, because I'm old and I wanted to be able to watch it again. So I think that's going to be fun. But yeah, the choreography, the costumes, the lighting, or the colors and everything was just really spectacular and visually appealing. So I really want to go back and see that again. In the music side, I told you I'm not particularly in love with any of the songs from Wicked except for Defying Gravity. None of them really are on my like always playlist. But seeing it come to life, hearing it with these amazing actors, and with the choreography and the dancing and the colors and everything, it made the music feel better to me than just listening it to it in your car or whatever.
Yeah. Dancing Through Life is one for me that has made it on a lot of my playlists. I really enjoy Dancing Through Life. I thought Jonathan Bailey's performance of it was so good and so fun. Like, I felt like he was a standout to me in this movie as well. Like, talking about Ariana Grande kind of stealing the movie as well, and you did too. But Jonathan Bailey was a close second for me.
He's so beautiful to look at too.
So fun, just like his actions and everything with it when he comes it, so good,
just great.
But I really like the choreography in Dancing Through Life. I thought was so fun and energetic and unique too, and so well done. I thought Ariana Grande's performance of Popular was just fantastic. I loved it, and that was another one. The choreography and how it was shot, like when she's on the ground just like pushing herself, going on her back around, like almost like swimming around, just so good.
Fantastic.
I did think Cynthia Erivo did a great job in The Wizard and I, and that was a unique take. Other Easter egg they had, that when she's running through the field, there's a rainbow and bluebirds, which is a line in Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Interesting.
So from the original Wizard of Oz.
I saw the rainbow, but I didn't connect them.
Yeah. And then One Short Day, like we've talked about multiple times, was great. The additions of talking about the wise ones, some history of that, which is from more the books of just kind of those powerful magicians and everything, and kind of that history of the magic with Adina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth was so good. And like I think I was saying earlier, that the arrangements, just keeping it so close to the original musical ones, and so faithful to it, I was really impressed with, and I thought was fantastic.
I agree with that. And then I really liked Something Bad. Is that what it's called? Something Bad, with the scene of their like sort of
Peter Dinklage.
Yeah. By the way, I didn't know that was his voice, and for the first like 10 minutes of him talking, I was like, who is this guy's voice? Like, it was just driving me nuts. I couldn't even pay attention to the movie. I was like, but he has a very distinct voice. And when I finally figured it out, I was like, that's it. It's my man, Dinklage. I love him. And as soon as you hear him, you're like, I know that voice. He's one of those people that like automatically, like, that's a voice that you know. But it was not clicking. It was driving me crazy. Anyway, I thought his character was awesome. Professor
Dillamond.
What is it?
Dillamond.
Dillamond. I always think it's like Diddlemond, and that just is not right. So
close.
Shut up. So anyway, but it was cool how we had that little like behind the scenes sort of look at the animals, rightfully being freaked out about the way things are going for them, and it's like foreshadowing for the whole conflict that turns Elphaba into the Wicked Witch is all based on this issue with animals losing their ability to talk. And it was such a cool scene with the shadows, like the I think of them like shadow puppets, but they had like little shapes and stuff in front of the light that created the shadows on the wall. I thought that was really well done, and I love that song.
I agree. That was something that was expanded upon in the movie.
Exactly.
That wasn't on the stage. Like in the musical, that just happens in the classroom.
Right.
But here you're seeing that's the animals getting together, talking about their concern and everything that's happening. And
I don't
puts
think
a little more weight behind it too.
They don't have that like sort of group, do they, in the musical? Like there's no like
no.
I don't want to call it animal rights. Well, like they're like a little kind of secret society gathering and like collecting information about the political implications of what's going to happen to them and how animals are going missing and et cetera, et cetera. But that was that was a new thing for the movie.
Another interesting call out is in the book. We didn't call it Nessa Rose in the book has no arms. She's not in a wheelchair. She has no arms.
That's right.
That's her thing.
They
talk about how beautiful she is, but she has no arms. So
holy
that is a big difference between.
You are so right, and I totally forgot that detail. Wow.
Yes.
Why would you change that?
I'm guessing it's easier to have someone in a wheelchair than no arms.
Okay, that's fair.
And then they do the whole thing, which, well, good transition. I don't really have anything else in the music besides it was fantastic. There's some standouts. called those out there.
I'm excited to see
now
the rest of the songs and the new songs in part 2.
Yes, agreed. We're going long on this episode, so you're
Sorry.
welcome. A wicked super episode. But we're gonna get into some of spoilers potentially for part 2 of the movie of what happens in Act 2 of the musical. So if you haven't seen it, stop listening now. Check out the time code. Skip to our sign off. If you want to check out that. Okay.
Oh my god.
Another reason that I think they could have done potentially, so this is in Act 2 of the musical, one of the big things is Elphaba uses, like, enchants the magic shoes, the slippers, to enable Nessa Rose to walk.
That's right.
And so, but I am curious, because Melissa Bode, who plays Nessa Rose in the movie, is actually in a wheelchair. And so I am curious how they're going to do that, because I feel like kind of some big things, like the initial when Elphaba kind of lost her power, was freaking out at the professor who is acting like Nessa Rose wasn't able to do things on her own and like trying to help her, just wheeling her somewhere, and she's like, she can do it herself. Like that was a constant thing there. Like kind of like she's not you shouldn't be treating her disabled is the wrong thing, but you shouldn't be treating her differently. She can do things for herself.
Right. So why the need to make her shoes that help her walk?
Yeah. So I'm curious, because
how are they going to handle
make it
that?
A point.
Yeah.
Don't make it seem like her disability is a setback or something that takes away from her.
Right.
They kind of make that point a little bit more, I felt like, in part 1. So it'll be interesting if they keep that as it is in the musical, that Elphaba enchants the shoes so that she can walk.
Interestingly,
or if they do something different.
Interestingly, though, the antithesis to that is that when she talks to Bach for the first time, he asks her, do you know why I asked you out to this party? And she's like, it's because I'm in this chair. And he lies to her and says, no, it's because you're the most beautiful woman, blah, 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 blah. And the truth is, obviously, we all know he's secretly in love with Glinda. So obviously by the end of the movie, first one, Nessa's figured that out. She's finally seen that and been like, yo, I told you. So I'm wondering if that might be the catalyst that creates this need to walk, because you lied to me and said it wasn't because I was in the chair. But now I'm thinking, now I know why you really did it. You're in love with her and I am still in a chair. Maybe that's the way they bring it in. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Yeah. Well, and that's some of the other big twists in Act 2 of the musical that are here. So yeah, Nessa Rose turns into like a dictator of Munchkin Land. Like when their father dies, she starts like revoking all the Munchkins' lives so that Bach is forced to stay with her and basically doesn't have his own free will, because she knows that he doesn't really want to be there.
Who we all know is eventually going to be crushed
by a house,
by a flying house,
Witch of the East.
And we all know that is the Wicked Witch of the West's sister. And she's really, really upset about it. And in Wizard of Oz, she's like, oh no, my sister, give me back my shoes. Oh, exactly. Dang it, my sister died. Well, crap, give me my shoes back.
Because that's the one song that's not on the original cast album that is the Wicked Witch of the East. Like there's a song that Nessa Rose sings, and it's when Elphaba gives her the power to walk. Because she can walk, Bach thinks like, oh, she doesn't need me anymore. I can tell her I'm actually in love with Glinda. Maybe she'll let me be. But then Nessa Rose tries to take the Grimoire and tries to cast a spell to make Bach fall in love with her. Instead, it's shrinking his heart. And so Elphaba turns him into the Tin Woodman. The Tin Man. Tin Woodman. Tin Woodsman. I think it's technically the Tin Woodsman in the book.
I think you're right.
But
I think it is a woodsman.
But
or is he a hunter?
So Bach is the Tin Man.
Bach turns into the Tin Man. And then we find out later Fiyero turns into the
Scarecrow. Elphaba turns him into the Scarecrow because he gets kidnapped and is being tortured, and she's trying to save him from being tortured and have him not feel any pain. And then she accidentally turns him into the Scarecrow.
She messes that
up. So those are two big things that I'm going to be curious how they play out in the second movie. Because that's like Fiyero being kidnapped, tortured in Elphaba, changing him into the Scarecrow to kind of save him and protect him. A little dark for a PG movie, I feel like, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. Just spitballing there.
Yeah.
But I actually I think Act 1 of the musical has a lot of the bigger songs everyone knows, like Defying Gravity, Popular. I feel like those are some of the big heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Act 2 actually has some of my favorite ones. No Good Deed is one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And As Long As You're Mine. I love As Long As You're Mine, the song Fiero and Elphaba sing together. I think that's so good. So I'm really excited to see those songs and how they play out in part 2. Because they have said it seems like part 2 is where more of the changes from the stage musical are happening. That's where 2 new original songs are going to take place.
Yeah.
They've said there's going to be some changes. I think there's going to be some changes, to the Nessa Rose stuff. So I don't know. I'm intrigued. We have a year to wait. It doesn't come out until November 21st, 2025.
I know.
So I'm going to have a hard time being patient. But that's where we see, like, Dorothy interacts with Elphaba. We've seen some clips in the teasers. There's been things like Glinda in a wedding dress. Were in the teasers for this. Because that's her and Fiero's engagement that Fiero didn't know about is a whole thing. And then him leaving her for Elphaba in Act 2. And so we see some clips of that. We see some clips of Dorothy and the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and the Lion, which is the one they rescued in part 1. We see some clips of that in teasers for Wicked. And so we know that we're going to see those play out probably in part 2.
I'm assuming, too, they're going to reveal that who the wizard is to Elphaba, right?
Yes.
The wizard is actually Elphaba's real biological father. And that gets revealed because the little bottle that Elphaba's been carrying around her whole life. And in the end, she, like, Glinda gets it and takes it to the wizard. And the wizard's like, oh, that's mine. Thank you for that back. And it's like, what? That's the elixir that
why she's green.
Her mother was drinking when she did the deed with, and I guess the whole reason that she has magic and the whole reason that she's green is because of this elixir and because they're like from two different worlds and they came together because he's from Nebraska and she's from Munchkin Land or whatever they're from. And
fuckers.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm also curious to see if they get how deep into the romance they get for Fiero and Elphaba, because obviously we can't have any like explicit scenes if it's going to be a family movie, but they did show the movie that her mother cheated on her father with this rando whose face we didn't see, and now we know why we didn't see his face, because later on we find out who it is
in part 2.
Exactly. So I'll be interested to see how much of those details they give to. I'm sure they're going to reveal in the end. They have to.
They tweaked the voice a little bit, but it did still sound like Jeff Goldblum singing in that beginning. So I felt like they modified the voice a little bit, like they tried to make it so it wasn't as obviously
super obvious,
but
so if you haven't seen it, then you're not going to put that together.
Right. I feel like I was going to say something else along those lines that now I do not remember.
Sorry, I probably cut you off. So it's something about the lion that they rescued, or the Tin Man, and the
wizard,
Scarecrow, Dorothy interacting with Elphaba. I mean, Homegirl just wants her shoes in the book back. There's, like, what the hell? Like, just give her her shoes back, and she won't mess with you anymore.
Her sister shoes. That's right. In the book, the whole thing is Fiero. He's described very differently. Like, he has blue diamonds painted all over his skin. He's married and has 3 kids. And then Elphaba basically has an affair with him, and then she has a kid. Fiero's kid as well. And there was a sequel to the novel Wicked that was written that was called Son of a Witch, which I have not read that one.
I haven't read that either.
But about Lear, Liir is what their kid's name was. But that obviously did not make its way into the musical.
You know, it's interesting. I was thinking about this when we were watching that, why they didn't make him blue. And it's interesting because he's so, like, adored by everyone when he shows up, when Fiero shows up, that everybody's just like, oh my gosh, oh. But then they had been so anti her because she's green. Like, you can't You can't have both. You can't be like, oh, ew, she's green, but like he's blue and I love him. Like you almost had to make it. They had to make him like look normal or look really, really handsome. And in the book, he's like not really attractive. Like he's kind of an outcast. He's kind of a weird like toad sort of species where they're like, this guy is from the Winky country and that's like ew, but it works for her. He's not like he's not like a sex god walking in. Everybody's like, oh my gosh.
Right.
But of course, he and Belinda have their thing too. But anyway, I think that they had to make him like look like a normal dude. Otherwise, it wouldn't have made sense why they were so gaga over him and so ew over her.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things too that I didn't want to talk about earlier because it kind of spoils it. But I've seen some comparison videos of the choreography, and it was intentional, of Jonathan Bailey's movements during Dancing Through Life, mimicking some of the Scarecrow's movements when he's dancing on the yellow brick road with Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, interesting.
Kind of some foreshadowing of him.
Interesting. Now I want to go back and look at that.
So I thought that was really, really neat. But yeah, I'm really excited for part 2. I don't think it will have quite the same reception. I don't think it will be as beloved as this first part 1, honestly, just because part 2, it's a little more dark. It doesn't really have any of the, like, it has some really good songs. Like I even like, thank goodness, the opening song to it, I think is really good. Just I really enjoy it, but none of them are really as powerful as Defying Gravity. Nothing really tops that. Nothing's really as fun as Popular. So nothing really tops that. True. Same with like nothing's really as catchy as One Short Day. So I do think it's not going to be quite as well received as this one was.
Yeah.
Just because of what's contained within it. I think they're going to mesh together perfectly. I have complete faith in John M. Chu in this cast, because another thing, like there's like a 5-year time jump too. Right. Between the two, like lots has taken place. There's been a jump. So that's what the Yellow Brick Road had time to be constructed. Alphabuzz been still going on trying to free the animals and be a champion for them. So I don't know. We'll see if we get maybe some of that in between stuff, if they throw that into the movie, because the second act does seem to go by a lot quicker than the first act. I feel like it's a lot less happens in the musical version. So we'll see. I think
I'm excited for the movie. Spend some time getting the characters set up in the first one that you don't have to do in the second one. You don't have to introduce people. You don't have to tell their backstories. You don't have to tell like how they interact with each other. You don't have to establish the characters or the interactions or even just their origins or anything. Like the second half, you just go right back into, we already know everybody and this is what happens. And you gotta incorporate the stuff that we all already know, which is the Wizard of Oz stuff. So like that's where the content really is in how are you going to work this in from part 1 to the Wizard of Oz. How do you get from here to here? Because there's got to be a connection. If you've seen the show, then you understand. But if you haven't, then you got to see like all those bits and pieces. So I'm excited. It'll be good. Yeah. Do we know what's the release date? 2025, but what?
I think November 21st, 2025.
Full on a year. Right. Okay.
Yep. So about a year. So we'll see. Only other note I have about this movie before we close it out. I'm not big on social media. My weakness, even though I hate it for so many reasons, I've said I'm going to get off it for so much time, is I will randomly scroll Twitter sometimes. Oof. I got on the Wicked / Ariana Grande stan Twitter algorithm because I liked like 2 posts about Wicked, and social media is about to make me hate this movie. Like I loved this movie, but people overanalyzing all of the reviews, the press tour. I will say I love Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande in this. Their press tour interviews have been weird as hell.
Really?
Like clips coming out of it, wild. Like it just seems weird to me. I don't know, but like the clips that I'm seeing, because I'm just seeing these clips, like that. If you watch the full interview in context, maybe completely fine, but the clips and everything, and everyone finding little things to nitpick and complain about everything is going to make me hate this movie. Because people online are fucking jackasses.
That's what
suck.
Twitter
and there were so many people
is, though. Just hate everything and everyone for all reasons and for no reasons whatsoever.
It's true.
So
And that's why I keep saying
there,
I'm going to
you're
get
gonna
off it.
hate everything.
But every once in a while I see fun things. But yeah, it's wild.
Now I got to go look up these press
are
clips because I'm curious. I have no idea what that is. What they're talking about.
But I will say I don't want, if I'm going to see this movie in theaters, I don't want people singing along out loud to it in theaters.
Oh yeah,
now. On Christmas, they're doing sing along screenings of this. Go to those.
Go to that.
But
yeah.
I will say my big rant is on theater etiquette these days, because that was the other thing on Twitter. So many people that are like, drop your Wicked 1 pics here, and people taking pictures of the screen during it, filming clips during it. That is just, stay off your fucking phone in the theater.
Ew.
And there were people when I went to it in fucking Lincoln, Nebraska. I did go Thursday night, so like the first showing you could, but people had their phones out taking pictures of their title card a couple times throughout it. People next to me, obviously theater kids, nothing against theater kids. I was a mild theater kid for a while, but like
I'm a theater
very
kid,
loud
but I don't
during
like an
it.
asshole
It just
in public.
drove me crazy. So like, let people enjoy the movie. Don't ruin it for people.
And by the way, nobody cares if you know the words to the song. Like nobody's impressed by that. Good for you. They want to hear
those people sing it.
Yeah, that's why I paid money to be here. I didn't pay to see you sing it over there off key. Yeah. Thank you very much. No. Yeah, no, I don't. People just need better etiquette in general, and that includes all things theater. Like
people need to stop being assholes.
Anytime you're in public, just
don't be a dick.
Just exist like the rest of us matter just as much as you. That's all I ask.
Yep, exactly. Did you have any final thoughts on Wicked to close it out? I guess I would just say I love this movie. I think it's one of the better musical adaptations into a movie. Definitely go see it. Really excited for part 2.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, I think, it pleasantly surprised me how close to the musical it was and how much the book they actually incorporated, even though that probably was a difficult thing to do because you have to cherry pick things out of the book to bring into a family-friendly movie. But I was pleasantly surprised by the acting, pleasantly surprised by the overall spectacle of it. Obviously a lot of money went into it. Clearly huge amounts of money went into this. So I'm glad it's doing well because they should be success. It should be a success after everything they put into it. So definitely go see it. And we'll be back in a year to talk about part 2, and we'll have to go back and watch this episode and then continue the discussion for part 2 in a year. But I think it was fantastic. We went a really long episode because that's how good it was. So,
yep, agreed. All right, well, that will do it for this week's episode. Stay tuned. I think we will for Christmas. We are going to try to do a little bit of fun review of Netflix released a movie this year called The Merry Gentleman, which is billed as a comedy rom-com musical. It stars Britt Robertson and Chad Michael Murray. And it's to save her parents' small-town performing venue. A former big city dancer decides to stage an all-male Christmas-themed revue, which basically she turns it into Magic Mike. So this movie, it's rated 4.9 out of 10 stars.
And Christmas
so
movies.
I think this is right. It's going to be hot garbage, but like I said, male strippers, Christmas movie, musical, right up our alley. I think we'll have some fun with it. That's right. So in the meantime, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow, all that fun shit. Hopefully you all had a great Thanksgiving. You're gearing up for a great holiday season and Christmas coming up, whatever else you celebrate. Thank you all for sticking along with us a year. See you next week. And in the meantime, don't forget to go down once more.
Peace.
Later.
Hello? Hello?
Now, I'm not hearing you. It would not be a true recording session if we didn't have it. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?